All right, so we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another expert session number 106. Just before I start, some sponsor recognition. First and foremost, AirMeet, our platform enabling our global sessions, and Acclaim AI, applied AI and data infrastructure partner supporting Evolve. So what is Evolve? Evolve is a global platform bringing together board-level leaders, senior advisors, founders, and investors operating across commerce. We run ongoing structured conversations across markets, and this session is one expression of that system. Our expert today, David Alves, is a board member, advisor, and angel investor. He has operated across consumer goods, telco, and retail with roles at P&G, Optimus, Sonai.com, and Sonai, where he held CIO and board-level responsibilities across technology, e-commerce, and commercial units. His work today focuses on early-stage investing and governance through Core Angels Porto. This gives him visibility into how operating experience translates into founder selection and capital allocation, and where experienced operators misread early-stage dynamics. I'm your host, Carlos Monteiro. I'm the founder of Evolve. Alongside senior operators and advisors from the Evolve network, we're going to be my co-host today. So basically, we're going to cover how impact shifts from execution to allocation, how operators assess founders, where governance creates or destroys value, and how experience translates into early stage decisions. Davi, I always start with a controversial opening question. So the question for you is, are we seeing experienced operators extend their impact, or are many simply stepping away from execution without a clear mechanism to create value?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for me. I think the companies and especially founders are really trying to bring in impact in the real world. So they saw a problem out there, and they foresee some solution to overcome that issue, and bring value to the world. There are ones more focused on revenue. There are ones more focused on impact. There are the ones more short term, long term, but they are trying really to deliver impact. The key issue is if they have the ability, if they have the skills, if they can join forces with the right people and the right organizations to bring that to life. And that is the key thing that makes a difference between success and not so much success or even failure.
Brilliant, thank you. Let's move on to then the next question regarding career architecture. Davi, you have operated inside large organizations with direct responsibility, and now you operate across boards, advisory, and investing. So what actually changes in how you create value when you're no longer inside the operating machine? And I'd like also then Dave and Dirk to ask their questions, because they are also top advisors nowadays. So I think their perspective can really enrich this discussion.
So on career design, and I've faced that question several times, especially with my kids. You should always find a place where you can learn. Okay, so trying to learn about how to do stuff, how to actually be part of a team, make yourself heard and able and build the ability to hear others and bring value to the discussions. So that is critical, and that is more than actually organizations. It's actually which kind of boss are you having, and if your boss is really interested in bringing you up as a person and as a professional. then you start having impact on the scope of and areas that you run. Then you start developing some more work and value outside your own arena. I remember I was on a sales job, and I needed a specific kind of product. I was on the telco business. I needed a special kind of product to differentiate myself out of the shelves at hypermarkets and electronic goods retail. And so I developed a product. Instead of waiting for the marketing area to design the product, I decided to design it. I got the approval, and I launched it, and it was a huge success. So they moved me to the marketing to the marketing department afterwards. But the key issue is you don't have actually to respect too much the borders that your job has, and then you move on. When you are on a board, on an executive committee, you actually should be working together with the other board members, and try to help them and ask for their help on your own areas, and really build a trust and valuable relationship with them. So that is critical. That is the only way to actually to have a view on the others, the colleagues areas. So I was in logistics at a certain point, then I had operations at another point, so retail operations. I had e-commerce, I had IT, as you said. I had commercial areas. So the only way to move around is really to be open to ideas from others and get their own views, and also from your team. So your team also is a good, an excellent basis to get to know how the organization works and which are the key roles that you should be aware of. When you are a member of ExCom, you are more orchestrating rather than executing. And when you do that, you start getting ideas from one side. You try to actually kind of facelift that idea, so people on the other side get a better idea of what can be the value of listening to the colleagues, and then trying to bring everybody to a common ground and build from there. So when you move out of ExCom and you start being more on the advisory side and you start listening to other people, you really need to keep on doing that, orchestrating ideas and energy. The key issue, actually, with startups, I told this story several times, is sometimes you give them an idea, a possibility, and you only meet them 1 month after or 2 months after, and they have already done that, and they are already a step ahead. So the key issue is understanding that when you move from a corporate world where things actually takes quite a long time to move the machine in that direction, when you start talking to organizations that are much smaller, where the founders, if they believe it, they make it happen, they move fast. So you actually need to slow down on the advising you do, on the ideas you share, on the challenges that you feel that are the right ones for them. So the key thing is not about how you behave, is the ideas or the orchestration that you can do, but actually having a good idea of what is the impact that might have on the other side, and evaluate which speed and which orientation you give.
Brilliant. I'll start with Dave. Dave was one of the experts. He wrote a really nice, great book. And the thing that stood out for me the most about Dave's session was having a North Star. I think when you spoke about that, it really was so important for me, Dave, because Gustavo and I, every time we have a discussion, we go back to what are we trying to accomplish, and it's like we have some discussions, man, like just to build things like some, so, like we're discussing now, perhaps having a place just for vendors, and we can talk about that in separate, but
Mm.
just that, like how does that impacts our North Star? Are we going to be more like are we going to change a lot what we are trying to build, and how people are going to perceive you from the outside, because there's what we are building and how people perceive you and the message you're conveying. So it's really interesting. Like in your experience, yeah, you've been operating at major tech businesses, right? So share what you're seeing now as an advisor, and perhaps if you have any questions to Davi based on what he said as well.
Yeah, I'll actually start with the question I have for David, because I was really interested to hear that you've been in organizations and worn multiple hats, as we say, logistics, commercial, everywhere. And it gets me thinking about talent in today's society in 2026, where particularly with AI, multiple hats can be worn by one person. But the problem I'm seeing out there is there's, well, I think in big corporations there's insecurities and fears, and that prevents a lot. But generally, as a general way of being in what you seem to have been doing in your past roles or in organizations, and what I think is needed more than ever is a curiosity. Um, so my question is, how do you, I suppose, how do you grow your own curiosity, but how would you build curiosity in others?
Um, yeah, I think it's one of the what factors. So earlier on at P&G, I don't know, there are 7, or there were 7, I don't know if they still use it, 7 what they call what count factors in terms of evaluating someone to join in the organization. So from strategic thinking and problem solving, so and the curiosity was actually capacity of learning, and curiosity was the 8th that I always evaluated after coming out of P&G and moving into other organizations when I had to do recruiting or selecting people. I don't think it's easy to build curiosity in others. What is probably instead, of course, if you are a young child, you can make and develop curiosity at a younger stage, but not on an adult already a professional running their own lives. What one can do is trying to mix different aspects of one's lives. So trying to understand if they're on their personal side, what they do and how they approach it. Because it can be the organization, as you said, the fears of the organization, the hierarchies, the long approval process, etc., etc., the review of the document for the 14th time, for the 20th time. My first document at P&G was more than 20 versions. So, and it was fine tuning. Of course, I was writing not on my mother language. It was written in English. Still, I had been in UK. I knew how to speak English. The the proficiency of the English language was not an issue. But then there was the business language. Then there was the P&G language. Then there was the assertiveness or the literature language that you do. So it was a long process, and that might kill some person that doesn't have the resilience for it to go after and to be curious on their own job. So you need to mix again to make the person a whole again and bring some of the curiosity. If they like to travel, and many people nowadays love to do journeys and go different places, are they going for a show off, or are they going for with the will to learn a different perspective on the world and a different perspective on history, whatever? So trying to bring, do they love music? Do they listen always to the same ones? Are they curious about new stuff coming in? Are they not? Are they religious in some way, and they try to find something more about their religion and the difference versus others, or they are stuck on orthodox kind of belief? How do they see others? How do they relate with others? Are they curious when someone joins the team and they try to learn a little bit about new person on the team? So you try to start. Okay, this guy has it. Is not showing on the job. How can I challenge him or her to bring other perspectives and try to go further? And that is the way of doing it, in my view.
So you more kind of dig into their motivations, understanding they're not really curious. So you just take the motivation route, just nudge curiosity. Yeah, interesting.
And making people. I remember there was one person that I had tried to challenge her several times in different situations, and it was only through written feedback on a course that she was doing, which I had to do a long evaluation, and she was so surprised by all the. So to make myself clear to her, I was more polarizing the evaluation rather than being midterm, right? So it was not let's say, a trustful evaluation. It was more a way of communicating in that way. So polarizing, the goods were very good and the not so goods were on the bad side, really. So she would understand that. And when she read it, it was the first time. I had tried to tell her 3 or 4 different ways, and she had not kind of resonate with my feedback. And from that point, she turned her career completely upside down. So she decided to do different stuff, and the way she managed the team was fantastic from there. But it was really trying to. So I knew that she was curious, she loved music, and she was out there. But in the company, she was very strict, and she was not going out of scope, and it was very hard to move on. So I had to try to challenge her and say, okay, you can do it, actually. So I believe that I gave you that rating on that skill or that way of behaving, because I believe that you can do much better, and you are not doing it because you do it elsewhere. You do it on some of the offsites. I see you connecting with the commercial team very well, but you are not taking profit of that on your own job with your own team. And and we were able to move on very, very fast from that moment on. But the issue is, after finding that people actually have it, then motivating them, as you said, to go after it.
Nice one.
Thank you. Dirk, you, sir, and your experience, and perhaps you'd like to drop a question there as well.
Well, first of all, it's a very interesting story there, David. I'm triggered by your orchestration of ideas concept, because in many cases, I am learning from, especially the bigger companies, the corporates, that the orchestration is predominantly driven by financials, right? So I worked for Vodafone, and the CEO at that time said, I like startups, but they should bring at least 2% of new revenue in the coming years. If they don't bring it, I'm not interested. And what I found interesting, the guy was super entrepreneurial. So he really loved startups, but he also said, people in an organization, like in Vodafone, but also startups, they need to understand the difference between having an idea and being able to execute that idea, like you're correctly saying there, David, to a success, right? That's a different thing. What we learned is that many people have many ideas within the company, like call them entrepreneurs, and also at startups. But the execution in the end, that is what brings success. I'm trying to understand from you, because you said one very interesting thing. You said you need to sometimes slow down, right? In perhaps even the motivation of the people, because they can be very eager and they want to do it tomorrow, and they see themselves as a speedboat versus the big company is a tanker. How do you then deal with that, right? Because it could also kill the motivation for people to try to even execute.
Yeah, you're very generous on your observation, and very interesting. I sometimes I feel that you should not communicate the full vision, the end game that you are seeing, because it's too far-fetched. So it's so far-fetched that looks like science fiction. So you really need to break it down. You need really to break it down so people start understanding. And then people start understanding, you need to motivate that the first step is actually on their range, and they can move to the first step. And then they start getting addicted on the results and their own sense of achievement, and they will start moving the company and the product, whatever they are managing, in direction that you envision. And probably sometimes it's slight on side or whatever. It does not need to be what you first envisioned. The key thing is trying to guarantee that everyone is actually in a range of at a speed that they are able to work as a team. When you have a guy going too fast and a guy going too slow, it breaks down the team. It doesn't work. So you really need to slow down the fastest and speed up the slowest, so people can stay together as a team. So most of the times you need to put the fastest on the back, so he keeps on pushing the guys in front of him. You need to move the slowest to the front, so he keeps on being pushed and he feels that he's more responsible. And you need really to be going around with this type of things to motivate and to build cohesion inside the team. And that's not always easy, because you need to take power from one team to the next one. You need to empower the other one, and this is critical. But you give it's a question of governance. So you give power if you put people at the same level in the same meeting. So you need you put people around the table and you say, okay, let's listen to them, and then let's decide what are the solutions. So we are far from getting agreement on which kind of solutions. What do you think will be the key indicators that this solution is the right one? Most of the times it's not only sales. There will be people focused on sales. There will be people focusing on environment. There will be people focused on repeatability of the product. So, and when you are in retail, the first impression of the product might sell quite a lot on the first week, and then it stops because the quality is not there and the packaging doesn't fit, doesn't deliver the right message versus the actual product. So there is a misfit. So you have a first trial, consumers try it and don't repeat it. So you have different ways and different indicators there. And then you have to bring people together. So probably there will be a commercial guy focused on just sales, and doesn't matter if you repeat, if you don't repeat. early sales is better than long-term sales in their view. There will be people more focused on long-term, and so you really need to try to find the right indicator or the right numbers that you try to follow. And do not focus on accessory things. So try to focus on the key ones, right? For instance, when I had guys that were designing procedures at after sales. So how do the stores receive the products? And they were asking loads of information from the consumer, the invoice from the time you bought it, etc., etc. And I said, okay, most of our products last less than 2 years, right? So we renew the products in 2 years. So if someone is returning a product that is still on sale, probably it's less than 2 years. We have to take it anyway. So why are we bothering the consumer with more bureaucracy and build distrust on our brand? Because he could not buy this elsewhere. He could only buy this in our stores. And actually, what we are doing to the people in store, that is, they are facing the customer there, you are building a bureaucratic approach that actually diverts their attention to the computer versus looking at the consumer and looking at the product and analyzing if there is an issue with the product and trying to overcome that issue with the customer in front of them. So what you want is customer satisfaction. You don't want a bureaucratic process. So let's ease this up. So if the product is still on sale, we accept it. You look at the product, you ask for information, you see if there was a malfunction or if it was misfit, or actually if the consumer didn't understand it, and with a quick explanation, he actually takes the product back and actually fits the needs that they thought about. So, and this builds confidence also on the people at the store, and they understand that their work is being turned into a easier job, more focused on customer rather than on procedures. I used to say to the commercial team that the consumer, when they go into a store, a supermarket, and we are talking about the FMCG type of products at a supermarket, when customers go in, they understand if the product was replenished on the shelf with a smile or with someone that is fed up and tired. So some of the things that we were doing were kind of puzzling the packaging. So if you would move the package sideways, it would actually enlarge the image and stuff like that. So our idea is we want our replenishers to be with a smile when they are actually putting the product there. They need to enjoy what they are doing. They need to prefer to put our product on the shelf rather than going to another section and do it, because our section is fun. It's good. It can be pet care, it can be household appliances, it can be toys, it can be books, but they actually need to enjoy it. So that helps a lot.
Thanks, Davi. I want to move on to the next block here about founder selection and capital allocation. So we spoke about leadership. We went another way that I was expecting, which is amazing. And Dave, you have to leave soon, you mentioned. So I think maybe 9 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. The idea here is to speak a little bit about this experience. Like David now is an advisor, sits on boards as well. And I think it's also from your perspective, Dave and Dirk, since you guys are doing that, explore some of the learnings he's had. I have questions, but I would like you to perhaps explore, maybe share a learning you both had working with different types of companies and founders that you've been advising, what you've learned after corporate now, perhaps how you pick a company to work with, because they want to interview you. They typically want your network, but how do you also go about picking the right founders? So Dave, I'll start with you, and then Dirk.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest struggle I've had coming out into the world for myself. That is your kind of positioning and pricing that follows that. I'm just generally finding that founders, from your startup to your mid-market, that's where I kind of generally work in the D2C space, are just inundated with too much choice, too much selection, about everything. So like if you look at it, in e-commerce brand selling black t-shirts 5-10 years ago, it was quite simple. Set up a Shopify, run Klaviyo, and have meta ads push in, feed traffic in. Those days are gone. It is wildly complex now because you had more channels come into existence. You had Meta, obviously Google, then TikTok, then you have Pinterest, Snap, Reddit, all these channels to bring in traffic. You had iOS changes, which gutted the whole system of its tracking infrastructure. Then you had COVID. Then you had all this supply chain macro stuff. And now brands have to figure out all these channels, all these new marketplaces as well. So they have to be on their .com, their Shopify. They have to be on Amazon. They have to be on TikTok Shop. They should be pushing into offline omni-channel to grow presence, and then they should be AI experts. So that is a founder's myriad of dilemmas in 2026, and that's what I'm finding is how can I slot myself in there to help them with this? And 9 times out of 10, it's just going in and telling them, no, don't look at this, don't focus on this, let's get this working. Because what I'm finding is, because of all these things that have happened, all these waves and stuff, is pretty much like across the board, everywhere I'm seeing it, and this is large enterprise businesses as well, I'm seeing, is brilliant basics are gone out the window because there's too much choice. Everyone's trying to figure out everything, so they're not doing the basics in front of them. And like simple working principles like that 80-20 rule. So let's get 80% of something working and scale it up, and then 20% of the time is to test and experiment to bring into the 80% bucket. That's gone. So all solid working principles and frameworks are kind of gone out the window, and then founders are trying to figure out everything. So it's a tornado out there, and that's where I think the likes of us can come in and just get them to the eye of the storm and try and figure it out from there. But it's pretty crazy out there and wild, and that makes it even harder then to I suppose package your support. And what I find the best way is just get in the door, say, let me figure out, let's go for a half day, let's meet teams, let's figure out, here's some quick wins, and then here's some stuff we can do down the line. But it's just having them feel comfortable to bring you into their office, have a look at their dashboards, and just go, here, I see this, this, and this, and I don't think you should do that. And that's kind of the starting point of all this. It's just being pragmatic and helpful and simple.
Yeah, I think I can comply to what you're saying there, Dave. It is really a wild west out there. And while you were talking, I was thinking about the different position I was having within a Levi's or a Vodafone and working with startups. And that position gives you, well, some kind of credibility to give some advice to the startups, right? But it's more about how does a startup then work with a corporate versus how do you really make the startup itself successful. Now, not being with a corporate anymore and being independent already for several years now, I still work with corporates. I still work with startups. my vision or my way of working with startups has changed. I'm trying to already figure out, basically in the first conversation, almost like an investor perspective, is this team going to do it, yes or no? And are they adaptive to advice? Because what I'm finding in many cases is that sometimes people have a fantastic product, but are all over the place when it goes to go to market. They don't have a clue how to do it, and they are not adaptive to advice. So they keep on doing what they're doing, and they're not changing, right? And that's why I was so interested in, like David is telling, the orchestration of ideas. Because in the end, it is about the soft skills almost of a founder, right? You have to address something completely differently. But me investing as an independent consultant in a startup can be extremely time consuming. So I'm trying to already figure out which startups can I really help, which understand indeed also that also for me it is difficult to try to get away into a corporate for them, right? To find a company for them. It is not that easy. Many startups I found, especially over the past, are thinking, yeah, but it's very easy. You already have the network. You give a call and then we can have a meeting. No, it's not like that. And then I have to explain what reality is. And then they say, oh, okay, so it will take 6 months. Yeah, 6 months normal sales lead time is quite normal. But even 1 year can be normal. Even 18 months can be normal. So don't expect a result tomorrow, right? And it starts with you as a startup. It starts with you as a founder, that you have that understanding, because then we can have a relationship and then we can talk. So that's my first filter, regardless even of the product, right? Because a good team can make a good product, but can also make a bad product good. But a bad team can also completely kill a really good product. So that's how I'm working. So I'm also interested to learn from you on how do you work with startups? What is your filter? What is your, how do you bring your experience into the conversation and try to choose those ones, even within a company, that can really make a difference?
Yeah. So I think you both you both mention it. It's a question of if they have the skills and if they show the energy and if they are coachable at the end. So when you say focus and discard that, as Dave was saying, you actually need to check if they are doing it or not. So one of the startups I follow for quite a long time now, I was always asking them to sort out the production. Okay, you still don't have the production stable. So first of all, let's sort out the production and make it stable. And next meeting, they were telling me, yeah, it's stable, it's working. I'm working on e-commerce and accelerating the sales. I'm working on transportation, etc., etc. And then the next meeting, they would say, okay, we went out of stock because the production was unable to keep up with the sales that we were actually making happening on the other way, on the other side. So, and this took them 2 years to learn that they actually had to, first of all, they were not immense, they were 2 guys, they were first to sort out the production. And they were after, and then when they finally sorted out the production, I saw a new place. They actually moved down from Lisbon to Porto, and they actually had a place. They were stable. They had the machines. They had everything working. I said, okay, probably it's too late now. The market has gone somewhere else, and these guys took them too long to do it. So it's too late. But let's try it. Let's check the market, and then I think somehow they actually felt that they had that the advisors were really important, and and they could have shortcutted if they had listened earlier. And I said, okay, let's measure the market and find out a way to measure the market. And then so they actually moved pretty fast, and they were able really to move on, and they were coachable, and they are coachable, because they had that long learning of just lying to themselves on being able to step further from what we were actually asking. So what I search is they have to have the energy. They have, They have to have the energy. They have to have the ability to listen. At least you realize that at first, and then they have to have a vision, both of the idea of the solution they are bringing to the problem, into the world, and they need to have an idea if that is able to build a business or not. But then it takes a while. I mean, there was a startup that I was mentoring for last year, and last week I went with them to a sales meeting. They were pitching to a big corp, and I said, okay, everything I've been telling this guy for the past year went nowhere. So it's no use for me to be here. No use for me. It's frustrating for him. He seems to be listening, but actually is not. He's too self-confident on his approach on the sales, and is not structuring this. I ask him to increase his price because it makes the product more credible. He's selling it quite cheap because he is eager to get some funds, and it will take him nowhere. And I'm not actually being able to help, so I advise him to go for a training somewhere. And I'm here if he needs, but giving up on trying to coach someone that is not listening. And coachable is one of the key things, as you said. A good team can transform a bad product into a very satisfactory one, or actually a good one, and that is quite real.
Brilliant. Franz.
Yes, I'm the only one coming from the audience onto the stage, apparently. But okay. No, I appreciate everything said, learning, but also having deja vus, basically, coming out of corporate. I mean, that's the life I use to tell them how not to do something sometimes. But as I told you, I'm focusing on the sales process, the sales teams, etc. I see a lot of parallel things. A sales manager who is managing a team should do exactly the same, but focusing on the sales team to enable them and to get the best performance out of them. And that's the parallel I see, and that's the part I'm focusing on. Coachable, absolutely. I was facing somebody who said, I'm doing this already 20 years, so should be good. You know, this kind of never-ending stories in a way. So, okay, but you know, it's not that you are bad, but you always can do better, and that should be the approach.
And things have moved, and things have moved, and sometimes in that market you need to do it slightly differently or whatever, and that
Yes.
will be easy for you.
Yeah, and like you said, if you have a team of several people, they are not the same. So every person needs his own approach, guidance, coaching, whatever. I tell sales managers in that respective, treat your people as a customer. Ask them what they want, and that's the thing. So especially with startups, scale-ups. So okay, I see pitches for startups and scale-ups, and they say, we will hire people in the first quarter of existence. Okay, that's interesting. So what are you going to do then? Apparently nothing, but that's the story. So I just wanted to share my appreciation of everything said. It was again learning, and again deja vu. And who is not the guy who's not coachable? Send him or her to me, please.
we had one experience. Actually, it was still in the corporate world. I inherited a B2B sales team inside a B2C organization, and I tried to coach him how to organize a sales team and a sales pitch, sales indicators, etc., etc. And as I was a board member, he kind of said yes to everything that I was saying, but he would do nothing. So it was too far away from him, and he said, "Yeah, we are doing that. Don't worry, we are doing that." But I realized that they were actually not doing. So I kind of gone back to my colleagues from the telco business, where we had lots of people on the B2B business. I invited them over for a dinner, 6 or 7 or 8 of those guys, and I said, okay, I have an issue here. I have this guy that actually is not listening to me. I'm unable to communicate to him. So probably someone coming from the outside, like you, might help him. So if you agree, I put you in contact with him, and you take a morning off or afternoon off, and you go there and just talk to him about sales. How you organize a team, how you motivate a team, how you monitor a team, how you put team focus on the right things and not on just trying to bring new stuff in that actually is not saleable and stuff like that. So he actually got what I call a fast MBA on 8 mornings from other guys, very experienced guys that were successful. Some of them were still on the telco at the time, but of them were already in other businesses. So it's a way of actually, on the coachable side, it's a way of getting to the person. Sometimes it cannot be you; it must be someone else.
Oh yeah. Sometimes there's not a match. That's correct.
Yeah, and
my tool is very often to ask some pretty critical questions. And being Dutch, sometimes
it's in the blood.
but it helps. It helps.
It helps a lot.
In most cases, I ask the questions also to Dutch people, so that makes it easier. But I know that with other cultures that can be a little bit difficult. But, that's the experience I gained in the almost 30 years being in corporate. So.
No, but I think it's fascinating because even ourselves, like within Evolve, it's just two guys, Gustavo and I. And yesterday we were having this, back and forth. And eventually I said, why? It's a common exercise, but why? Why do you think like this? Because sometimes we're so much into what we are doing, and if we don't step back, and he does this with me as well, it's just about challenging each other and trying to understand, okay, why are you thinking like this? Now give me the argument, because sometimes I think it's so important when you start speaking, because then you hear yourself and then you're like, well, I think I'm talking rubbish here, like it makes no sense. And then eventually you have to you write your idea and say, okay, so asking why, I think it's a powerful exercise, and what if as well, instead of having questions, right? So what if this, what if that, and why? Those are important exercises that I try to do, Gustavo, as well. Thanks, Franz. Hawan, you're up next.
Hi everyone. Davi, thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's been a great session. And I'd like to ask you two questions. The first would be, what would you consider like a red flag that immediately kills a deal for you, even if you think that the startup looks promising, but that flag would cancel everything? And you've been so open that I'd like to ask you, looking back, what mistakes that you made that completely change the way that you evaluate startups today?
Okay. Thank you. On the red flags, I think honesty is the basic one, right? So if they are showing off some numbers, or if they are showing off that they were at a meeting, it's not overselling, which is quite different. People try to paint things on a colorful way, but it's really going a step further. So that's a killer for me. It can be when they develop the product. If you develop the product inside another organization, and now you are actually trying to spin it off without rewarding the previous organization, it's like, it can be ethics, it can be actually law, but doesn't matter. I mean, you are actually developing something using the resources from another organization. Can be your time, can be the computer, can be whatever, the contacts, and then you are moving out after 1 year or so of developing the product. That's a no-go for me. So it can be on telling and lying about numbers. It can be about ethics and the way you actually relate. So yeah, sometimes we have founders that have been previous founders and that had done exits already, or they are developing another company. And we ask, so how are you splitting time between these two startups? And it becomes clear that they are actually not being that clear to the previous business angels or investors in the previous business. So that's a clear red flag. It's transparency and honesty. For me, it's critical. And there are plenty of things that I do differently in my life. Fortunately, I don't have to. It's not a game that I can do a restart and try to do a different path, because the way I look at it usually is, this is what brought me here, and I love it here. So the way might have been rough at sometimes. I probably wasted the resources in the way, wasted money. Let's be more blunt about it. There are Dutch people here. We can actually use the right words. And but that was the things that brought me here. So probably if I had not made those mistakes, I would be somewhere else. And I love it here. So the only thing that I would do differently, that I keep on saying, is being kind to people. Sometimes when you are under pressure, when you actually get fed up with that guy or that girl, somehow you are too harsh. And being kind is always a better option. So that would be something that I would do differently, for sure. Otherwise, on investing, and it's what brought me here. Of course, there were things that I'd be more assertive, as I was telling you about the guys that were developing product and wasting 2 years. They could be 2 years ahead. Or there were companies that I invested, and they actually were massaging the numbers. And when I realized it was too late, so I didn't do a clear understanding of who the founders were at the time. I trusted the other business angels there too much. So another one would be that I was not getting involved enough, because I had my own job, and I was not getting involved enough. So I kind of became probably a disappointment to the founders in the way that they were expecting me to help them more. I had been clear at the beginning, in my view, but most probably not on theirs. They didn't hear it. So, but this is what now allows me to try to be more transparent and clear at the beginning, my degree of involvement, putting time frames on that, and this is what makes me more clear on going after honesty from the early stage. This is what brought me here.
Brilliant. Thanks,
Thank
Juan. Thanks, Davi. Anthony, he just joined the community, and he told me his story yesterday. It was amazing to hear that he raised capital, right, Anthony? If I recall well, so had a few headaches there as well. So Anthony, but we'll have to do a session about your story because I think it's amazing. But go ahead, maybe if you want to frame your question and ask away,
Sure.
go ahead.
Actually, what my question's evolved actually because it started about what Dirk and Dave were asking you about, David. And it's kind of actually talking about honesty, kind of for me all sits in there. It's like when you are speaking to potential employees or potential startups, like it's finding that balance between coachable, like you talked about, confidence, and then for me, sometimes there's a little bit of a clash between confidence and coachable, but you need both. And then the honesty question and the honesty kind of thing that you started talking about, David, for me also, you want someone to be honest. Ultimately, you want someone to be honest, but sometimes it doesn't always benefit them or, and I speak from experience, maybe in the past, I shouldn't have been as honest or as open or maybe as coachable. I should have been a bit more confident. From my experience, I've always lacked a little bit of confidence. Even though I know I'm good, it's that outward facing confidence there. How do you find, between employees for startups, how do you find that balance between all of those kind of conflicting things that kind of, pressure people in their minds,
Yeah, it's an excellent. Thank you, Anthony. That's why I called it energy, which was a kind of confidence that you were mentioning. And it's you need to put that energy in the right direction, okay, and give space for building confidence there, okay. And then you cannot ask for a completely redo of the person. You give them 80% where they are right, or it doesn't matter really, and you build. You choose the 20% they are excellent and you give them full confidence there, and then you start coaching the other 10 or 15 or 20% that you think they are critical in the long run. So, but you need to balance that, as you were saying. It's really, you need to actually find something that they are doing very well, and then the other way. I remember one of the boards on a startup that the board was terrible. Okay, the new guy that came in the board was destroying and just smashing the guys around. The two founders, they are now 5 or 7 in total people in the team, but the two founders were there and they were really being smashed around. So at a certain point, I just raised and I said, "Okay, I have to go. Sorry for this." And I went out. I went for another meeting somewhere nearby, and then in the afternoon I came back and talked to them and just kind of did a psychoanalytical session with them, just for them to put everything out, and then trying to explain them that probably they were pushing the wrong buttons on the other guy, and so they were provoking him somehow. They should be more attentive and more empathetic with what he was showing, and he was showing. So you could just stop and say, "Okay, I'm not getting to you, so let's stop here," and not keeping on adding some more layers of distrust and miscommunication. So I worked with them in that sense. I said, "You are right on your basis," and he was putting it on a wrong perspective. But on the other hand, a board and having advisors, different advisors, that actually you didn't choose, it was your investors choosing, you need to build a way of talking to them. No, I need to talk to the investor. No. You don't want the investor to come in with the advisor having briefed him that you are going all over the place. Because the investor will come without time and will be cutting you in halves. But you need first to, this is the guy that you are going to work on for the next several years. If everything goes right. So you need really to start understanding that he's in a difficult position. I would not, they could pay me whatever money they want. I would not want to be in his position because it was a family office from his father-in-law. You see, so he cannot talk about his job with his wife because, and he's being paid by his father-in-law. So it's really a position where you don't want to be in. And I have two divorces in my bag, so I know what I'm talking about. And this is really tough. So first understanding, and then try to prepare yourselves for this type of person, for this type of insecurity, etc. You are right. So I was trying really to smooth them down on the communication part and still build confidence on the way they were building the company and the key things that they were doing on the company itself. So I could, some of the ideas the other guy was saying were right, so they could actually improve, but it was the wrong time to be talking about it. And it was better just to focus on the communication part. You need also to have confidence to be able to listen.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. Actually, Franz made a really quirky comment that kind of follows on from this. It's like all we just talked about is kind of in a perfect playing field, but you've got cultural differences as well. I love the Dutch way of just saying this is wrong and blunt, but I've got experience of working in a culture where there were Dutch people and Indian people, and the two ways of working was an absolute car crash. It was really hard and really difficult for both sides. As the Brit in between, it's quite, especially with, I've got some Dutch experience personally, so I quite like that. How do you deal with, this is the way that someone is kind of grown up and brought, not to be, to be very coached or not coached by you, but someone else. And how do you deal with that as well? That's a struggle.
It's not him to be adaptable, it's me. So the way I always try to say that, it's like with this guy on the communication, it's not about you, it's about him. It's not you that you are not wrong, but you need to take a different road there. You need to show it something different. And when you are talking about people that are very polite, always say yes and stuff like that, and there is on the other side someone that is quite transparent and clear and just tells what's on his mind, the only way to build a common ground is making people think, see the other side and say, okay, this guy is unable to say what he's thinking. So it's up to you to build a bridge with him that actually allows him to share what is on his mind, and that will be very useful for you in the long term. And the other way around, on the other side, this guy says what he thinks, so he doesn't. It's not even worse of what he's saying. It's just that it starts and stops on what is just said, and then you have to rethink of if he's not right, and it's just that, it's not anything else. So don't be so worried because he just said what he doesn't like it. Don't imagine like if it was you saying that, or someone that you know from your own environment, that is a world of things behind what you said. It's just what you said. So, and you need really to start building that confidence, and that will bring you into a different path and a different way of communicating. There was one experience I had going to a store. I think I already mentioned that to Carlos some time ago, that I was talking with the people of the store manager, and the girl that was responsible for the area where the products from my team were. And the girl came, and it was, I always ask, what can I do for you? What my team can do for you? Or there are any suggestions and stuff like that? And the girl just said, look, I've checked, and I think I can tell you what I think. But be aware, I'm going to tell you. Do you really want to listen to me? But for what I hear, you are a guy that I can tell things, but I'm going to tell you. Is this okay? So, and this is the type of thing when I tell some of the people that cannot actually talk to each other on common ground, is it goes with you. It starts building around you. And if people believe that they actually can talk to you and tell you things, that is unavailable. That is a huge amount of value that is there. And if they tell you, it's always better than not. So it's trying to build a common ground from the other's perspective and not from my side.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Brilliant. We've reached an hour and 6, full house here, so that's amazing. Davi, I think I'll have to ask you a closing question. And for everyone, I would really appreciate something new. I'm gonna ask you. Just post in our group that this session was great. It helps us a lot. You can take just a print screen, just post it there. It's amazing. But yeah, the closing question is, I'm gonna mix actually. So 2 questions. What would you focus today on? What would you focus on first to actually move a company forward? You know, by sitting on a board, whether it's a startup, more like a scale up. Let's put it this way. And the question that I will put it in the mix is, if you were starting today with the experience you have, how would you approach building your second act?
Okay. The first thing I'd say is culture is something that you manage. Okay, so don't believe that that you don't need to build a common ground between among your team or on your organization somehow. You really need to manage you really need to manage culture, and you really need to manage the key things that the company and the people are thinking, or are the words they are using, the purpose they are moving forward. That is critical. So sometimes you just try to go around it because you just had a beautiful speech on what is your purpose and your objectives, and you think everyone is aligned, but you really need to go deeper and get everyone on board in that way, and it takes time. So you really need to build it from the ground up, and that really takes time. If I would restart, I would probably be lazy and do everything again, just on a more comfortable way. But as I would like to see it, it's trying to understand better the other's view, and try to, with this way, avoid some of the things that probably I was told about or warned about, and I didn't listen. So there are jokes that I said that probably would have not said, and there were products that we could have skipped and focus our energies somewhere else. Probably have risked more at a certain point in life. I was a father very early in my very early age, so I kind of felt lots of responsibility from early stage, and so I felt I start driving slower, very early. Let's say when you usually are young. On my back then, you drive fast because you feel like you are unbeatable and really can do things on the edge. And I start driving slow very early, or slower at least very early. And that is sometimes you need to take risks and really do some stuff faster, or just move forward. And the balance between the responsibilities and making sure that you had everything on the table at the end of the day for your family, and taking the unknown, or at least less known, it's something that probably could have been done differently.
Amazing. David Alves, thank you very much, sir.
More than welcome. Thank you.
Yeah,
and for listening to me. It was
David.
Great.
So the best way to find you, the best way to find you, please, for who's on LinkedIn, who wants to, whoever would like to, to hire your services, and
I put the LinkedIn there, but anyway, if you come over,
we'll promote that on YouTube, and
let me know. I'm more than glad to help around and bring some.
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Davi. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.